Hey, what's up, everybody? We are back with another episode, Season 1, Episode 3. We are going to Houston, Texas with Laura Ruple.
Watching. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it. We are on Episode 3 of Moving Out with our awesome guest, Laura Ruple from Texas. Laura, why don't you tell people about yourself?
All right. Hey, everyone. My name is Laura Ruple. I am with EXP Realty, the leader of the Ruple Team. I work mostly in north part of Houston, Montgomery County. We work all over Houston. Houston's a really big area. There's the center of Houston, and there's a couple of loops. So we're on the northern side of Houston, but we'll go over. People in Texas who like to drive. I've heard in New York, you guys don't like to drive too much. As much outside of like
we're just spoiled with a lot of convenience. So what most people have to drive for, most of it we have like 3 of them in walking distance. So
okay. Well, we'll go just about anywhere here.
Awesome. And so what you said Houston area primarily, right? So the areas surrounding Houston. So you want to rattle off a couple of the towns or the areas that you cover. What do they encompass?
Yeah. So I'm in Montgomery County, and Montgomery County includes the Woodlands, Spring, Porter, Kingwood, Humble, Atascocita, got Houston, Katy, Montgomery, Conroe, Splendora, Porter.
Okay.
New Caney. There's a lot.
All right. Awesome. So what, obviously, I like to start with this question the most. What do you love? Like, what is the best part of your area?
So the best part of my area is Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo and Sports. Okay. Real big in Houston. We're all big rodeo fans here. So right now it's rodeo season. So every day of the month of March, coming up in March, we have a different artist, and it's not necessarily country artists. There's a different artist every day of the month. They've got a big carnival and the rodeo, and then a singer comes in, and there's always one like really, really big one. But that's kind of the big thing down here. And chili cook-off, got chili and barbecue and tacos, taco trucks. Love taco trucks.
Okay. All right. Yeah. It's all food right up my alley, so that sounds pretty good so far. And what about as far as like attractions and stuff like that? So I noticed that when I was Googling to grab your city snapshot of Houston, so you obviously have Major League Sports, right? So what teams?
The Astros,
right? And then football big for you, college football in your area, things like that.
Yeah. So football, we've got the Texans. Still a diehard Texan fan, even though they're not doing so great right now. But we got the Texans, and our big competitor is Dallas Cowboys. So did you lose me by chance?
No, you're good. You're good.
Oh, okay. So it's kind of a rival thing around here a little bit because Dallas has been around longer than Houston. But I mean, you're either one or the other here. Everybody's an Astros fan here, and college football is very competitive. My son goes to A&M. They're big football there. High school sports, everybody's competitive in high school. Recently had a client that was like, they're very specific. Like, we need to move to a school that has a good football team for my son. Like, gotcha.
Actually, I'm glad you brought that up. So for the school system, because you have children in the school system, so you can speak to this, right? What, do you find that they're pretty accommodating when you have things like, let's say, for instance, not only sports programs, but what about special needs programs and stuff like that? Are they pretty accommodating for stuff like that?
Yes. I'm inside of the schools a lot, inside of the elementary schools. I'm a substitute teacher, and so I do that kind of as voluntarily. And I do help out in like the special programs for the special needs. They usually have aides in every classrooms. They have ARD meetings. They're really strong in helping kids with special needs in all of the school districts here.
That's really great to know because I know that for a lot of the parents here on Long Island that have kids inside the school district, one of the things that New York and the New York education system pride themselves on is all the programs that they have available, so that I think that's great to hear, a little peace of mind for people that might be considering leaving. And if you have something, that you might need some kind of special accommodations, it's good to know that there's schools out there that are also helping with that. So what right now, obviously, I think COVID kind of made everyone's market a little crazy. So most people are saying the same thing as far as the real estate market goes. But what would you say your local market is like right now? Is it booming? Are there a lot of houses for sale? Are there very tight inventory? What's it like?
So the inventory is pretty tight here. I just did a listing appointment this week, and in my neighborhood alone, in the surrounding neighborhoods, there was only 2 other homes that were even similar to that home.
Wow.
The yeah. So I just pulled this up here. There was 290 homes in all of Houston's MLS. I mean, that's all of those cities that was sold
Wow.
last week, and about the same new listings this week, a little over 200.
Incredible. Incredible. So obviously a high demand for houses. Is there a lot of bidding wars happening? Are you seeing buyers are having to be competitive with their offers?
Buyers are having to be very competitive with their offers, and it really depends on the price point. If you're under 300,000, then yeah, there's bids crazy all over the place. So one of the things I'm recommending right now, I kind of, with this market, got thrown into making new construction my niche.
Okay.
And that's where I'm steering, especially in the area that I live up in Montgomery County. Texas is so huge. We have plenty of land. So we're still just constantly building. And there's so many new communities. I'm going to have a full spreadsheet of a list of all the communities to go by. There's 12 different builders in each community, and I know the differences between all the builders. And so that's kind of where I'm leading people right now. I have
Right.
3 new construction homes under contract right now. So
And
it's
about
like
how long?
literally the way to go.
Yeah. For a lot of people too. So what is the average price point of a new construction home, and what does that get you? Does it get you 3 bedrooms, 4 bedrooms? What style of house, and what's the price for it?
Okay, so you can probably get about a 3 bedroom if you're looking at a smaller end home under 200,000 square feet. Um, you could start. You could get something under 300 there, maybe 250, depending on the builder. That can go up.
Hmm.
Some of your affordable builders at that price range is going to be David Weekley, Gian, maybe Highland. You can definitely get a DR Horton home in that price range, even a 4 bedrooms and up. You can get under 300,000, and that's kind of your first time home buyers.
Yeah.
And
I mean
then,
that's awesome. The average new construction here on Long Island probably runs, I would say, about 599 for new construction, and that'll probably get you like a 3 bedroom ranch, maybe 499 if you could find a generous builder, but it's very expensive. While we're on the subject of affordability, what are the property taxes on those houses like? So you get a new construction home, and what are the annual property taxes?
so it varies in Texas very, very much from
Okay.
not even from county to county. It's from neighborhood to neighborhood. New construction wise, though, you're going to look at about a 3.2% tax rate.
Okay.
But we have what's called a mud tax here. I don't know if you guys have that, a mud tax.
Mm,
So the way I explain to my buyers is that when the mud tax is a municipal, it's a utility district tax, and it's the water. And if you have one person that lives in that neighborhood, they have to pay every bit of that tax. If you have 100
oh, okay.
people, they split it, and so on and so on. So the more developed the neighborhood becomes, the lower the taxes go. So it always starts off a
Interesting.
little high, and then usually comes down to about 2.7 to 2.9% is a good average, I would say.
Hmm.
Unless you can get in without a mud tax, and then you're in the low 2%.
Interesting. So that primarily offsets the utility costs for the water. Is that water
It
and
does.
okay?
I mean, it does. I don't know what water is there, but I have a 3,400 square foot house, and our water bill is maybe $50, $60 a month
Okay. Okay.
for
Um,
9 people.
Okay. And then the average tax per year, what would you say that is? Like if you had to put a dollar amount on it, I know it varies a lot, but if you had to put an average on it, is it more than 5,000, less than 5,000?
We're around 5,000. Yeah,
Around
45.
5,000. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Yeah, I mean the average taxes on Long Island right now range about $10,000 to $12,000 annually. So even when you get to pay your house off, you're still looking at about $1,000 a month payment on it. So it's hard for a lot of people, especially those retiring, that might want to take their money and make it stretch a little further, especially if you have a pension or something like that. There's really a good opportunity to stretch it further when you don't have to waste it all on taxes. So that's actually really good to know. So what is the average time it takes if you sold a new construction today and I sent you a buyer that wanted a new construction house? About how long does it take to get that house built? Like what would they plan?
If you want to buy the lot and build from the ground up and you want to pick everything out, it's going to take about 6 to 7 months.
Okay. All right.
If you find an inventory home or one that's already has started and you can't really change the options, but you like the options, you're looking at about 4 months.
I think when most people think Texas now, they probably think Chip and Joanna Gaines. So I think most people are thinking that houses start around $30,000. You could flip them, get them up to about $140,000 and live peacefully for the rest of your life without cost. So a new construction under 400,000 definitely sounds good to a lot of my audience here in New York. I can tell you that much. And then what would you say, is a unique characteristic of homes in Texas? Obviously, the saying goes that everything is bigger in Texas. So, the homes possibly a little larger square footage wise, maybe a little more land and such. But is there anything that you've noticed? I know just from us talking that you have family that's lived in a couple of different other states as well. So you're a little different in the way you have an idea of what other homes in other areas look like too. What's unique to Texas? What would people find there that they couldn't find anywhere else?
Well, we don't have basements
Okay.
because we're like at sea level, so you would flood. Uh, you know what? Master plan communities is
Okay.
is a big one. Do you know what a master plan community is?
Lay it on us. What do you got?
So a master plan community is a community they come in and they want local people within the neighborhood or the surrounding areas to be small business owners to come in and own those businesses. Like we have Jack's Burgers and Fries and just a smaller coffee shop. So we do have our major grocery stores as well. But also within these master plan communities, you've got all kinds of amenities. We've got swimming pools and lazy rivers. Some have golf course communities, basketball courts, tennis courts, parks, walking trails, biking trails. I mean, everything around here. If you don't have all that, then forget it. Like nobody wants to go there if you don't have something for everybody to do.
And that's
Fishing
and that's like that's community based?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Per community.
Interesting.
So
That's pretty cool. So then I mean, geographically, I couldn't have thrown a dart at Houston before looking at it. So I will admit that I did know it was in Texas. I would have failed the trivia if somebody asked me if it was on the East or the West Coast. I now know it's on the East Coast. What's the drive like for you to get to like a beach or something like that? Long Islanders, especially, we're very spoiled. We have a beach in every direction in about a 20 to 30 minute drive. We're always next to water. So I know a big question usually is well, how long is it going to take me to get to the beach?
Well, if you're in Montgomery County, it's going to take you at least an hour, hour and a half, depending on traffic. Downtown Houston, 30 minutes.
Oh, nice. Very nice.
Galveston, but I mean, I don't know what your beaches are like. Our beaches are not like clear blue water. They're kind of muggy, but it's a beach.
No, Long Island, New York, especially, are very, very far away from clear blue waters.
Okay,
so
about the same.
yeah. It's much like a little bit like Swamp Thing. If you remember that show growing up, it's kind of a little bit like that. So what would you say are the three biggest reasons people should consider moving to Texas?
Oh gosh.
Well, right on the spot.
I mean, one is the affordable housing for sure. You definitely can get a lot more home for your money here. You said 400,000 you mentioned earlier. I mean, that'll get you.
And that's a struggle. That's a struggle. Yeah, my buyers right now looking in a 400,000 price range are really having a hard time finding a house. It's very difficult for them. You get up around 500, it's very competitive. Recent listing that hit the market for 500 has offers well over that 500 price point. So buyers are trying to beat each other out for it. Very competitive in that way. So, overall, I would say the actual average for a house right now, if you wanted to get into a price range without competition, you got to go well above 700 and the market will simmer down a little bit. But that 5 to like 650 range is ultra competitive here right now because there's just not much. And if there is, generally that house needs a lot of work. So, that becomes the other problem is the real cheap houses are barely mortgageable, leaving the first-time home buyers without a lot of options. And for our move-down buyers, the generation that has the much larger houses that are looking for something smaller, that they don't have to maintain as much of a house, the problem then becomes, well, you're still going to buy an expensive house with a lot of money in taxes. So it becomes this challenge of helping people, downsize. And of course, now with COVID changing everything, the way people work, a lot of people are really starting to reassess. Like if you can take your money and make it elsewhere and stretch it further, I think it's a hard decision for Long Islanders to have to start to weigh now as they look at options of possibly living out of state, still taking their income with them and not having to worry about that change of living. I asked this question last time. If you happen to know offhand, it's fine. The common misconception for people here in New York is that if you leave New York, you're going to make no money and it's going to be impossible to live and it's going to be very hard. And it's probably one of those things that you can probably consider it an old wives' tale now, right? Because when you think about the landmass of Long Island, we are so selfishly almost nothing on the huge map that USA is. But, most Long Islanders wouldn't admit that we are that small. So when you think about how much money and opportunity there is, what kind of like companies are local to Houston for opportunity? Are there jobs? Is there, for W-2 employees and stuff like that? Is there opportunity for people to relocate there and work and find jobs?
Yeah, so the oil and gas industry is one of our big things here. Oil and gas and medical are huge here. We have just about 10 minutes down the road is Exxon's headquarters. And so that really brought Montgomery County, that when Exxon came in, we just saw all of our prices just really, really skyrocket and improve a lot. MD Anderson Cancer Center is one of the top leading industry cancer centers, along with Texas Children's Hospital is a well-known children's hospital, and we have a big old medical center that has it's right next to the zoo and it's just hospital after hospital after hospital there. We've got Halliburton, Baker Hughes, just lots of oil and gas here and energy.
And are they hiring, jobs, for people that need them and stuff like that? If somebody wanted to relocate there and they were concerned about finding work, could they find it? Is it available? Is it out there?
Oh yeah, it's out there. And I'll tell you what, they like nurses, especially here. I keep trying to tell my sister from Utah, the cost of housing there is so much. And what she gets paid so little. She could make twice as much here and have twice as much house too, have money left over. So it's you can definitely find a lot of jobs here.
What about the general cost of living? You're near gas, right? So is gas cheaper by you? What is it like? We pay about, what did I pay today? I think I paid $3.75 a gallon. That face doesn't make me feel good. What do you got?
No, we're closer to right at 3. We're still under 3.
Okay, so under 3. And average meal out. You got a couple of decent options that won't break the bank if you want to go out for a nice meal and stuff like that. Options for restaurants and stuff. Long Islanders, I said this last time and a couple of people messaged me and laughed and they were like, why do you got to call us out like that? Long Islanders can't live. I do not drink coffee, so it doesn't matter to me, but most Long Islanders can't live without their Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts. You got those kind of options near you too?
Oh yeah, we got Starbucks, small coffee shops, even over like by the Exxon, they have their own special little shops. Here in Texas, we can't live without like our wine and our whiskey. So sorry about you coffee drinkers, but
That's great.
you'll probably get a bottle of wine or a bottle of whiskey from your realtor when you purchase a house here.
Good to know. So be specific in what you guys drink when you get there, because
Exactly.
you don't want to end up with a bottle of something you don't like. So that's great. Is
Well,
there
sorry, when I do open
no?
houses for here, I literally, my mom thinks it's crazy, but I have wine and margaritas at my open houses for people to come into, and my mom was like, "You can do that," and I was, "Yeah, why not?"
Oh my gosh, that's great. So what you'll have to do, right, is you'll have to go and schedule an appointment to hit a couple of open houses with Laura that she's hosting, so you could have a drink while you're at it.
Yeah.
We are on episode number 3 now, so it's kind of cool in the way that we have a little bit of a checklist forming, right? So one of the recommendations that Danielle Edwards from North Carolina made was to call her up and work out a rental, okay, to start, right? Maybe a small short-term rental or an Airbnb even that you might be able to point someone in the direction of so that they can come meet you, right? Get a weekend out there, take a look at what the local marketplace is like, let Laura show you around. And then the next episode, Q is saying, look, just get your finances in order. It's great to have you down here, but if you don't know how you're going to make a purchase, we don't want to get your hopes up and they're not able to do it. So we'll make sure that people take a trip, get to see the area. Also, make sure your finances are in order. If we have to get your house sold, obviously you guys are going to give me a call. We'll get the house listed. We'll get it sold. This way you can tell Laura or any one of our other referral partners exactly how much money you have to work with. It makes their job that much easier. So is there any tips that you could give as far as if I'm sending you a buyer from New York, what should they expect coming down to Texas? What should they do to make sure that they're prepared? What would you recommend?
So we are a title company state. We're not an attorney state. So what that means is, I think up there y'all use an attorney to draft your contracts. Is that correct?
Yes.
So we have a standard contract that's the realtors know all the verbiage to and help you work through that contract and the offer. So we, as the realtors and the brokerage, and essentially are the ones that make that contract with you. We also do what's called 1% of earnest money. That can be negotiable, but if you don't put 1% down earnest money, you're probably not going to get the offer. It's basically a good faith payment, and that goes into an escrow account for the title company, and it just basically is saying, hey, we're serious. We have the money to pay for our closing costs, which your closing costs are about 1.5%. Plus your down payment.
Perfect. So I was going to ask you actually, who does hold that money? So the title company holds that money. It's typically about 1% of the purchase price. Okay. So on a $400,000 or a $300,000 house, about $3,000. And then at closing, is that money applied towards your closing costs?
Yes, it is. It is your money unless you, the buyer, do something to forfeit the contract. For example, you go out and you buy a brand new car the week before closing and now you can't finance your house. Well, you are the dummy that went out and messed up your credit. So sorry, sellers are keeping that money.
Yeah. Okay. And then, so there is no money exchanged on contract then?
There is. It's called an option fee. And it's very small. It's usually $20 to $25 a day, depending on if you want. The average is 7 to 10 days of option. And that means that the seller is going to take the house off the market, put it in a option pending status while the buyer gets an inspector to come out, do their due diligence, do their inspections. And then if you back out of the contract, that they get to keep that small amount. Like I said, 150, 200 bucks. It's not a lot.
Yeah, but it is something, which again, going back to Danielle in North Carolina, that amount of money over by her is extreme. They're like gambling like 8 to like 13 grand. Like, hey, look, the first 3 weeks, this is your money. If I back out, this is how bad I want your house. So it's a considerable amount of money up front. It's a lot different than if anyone has ever purchased real estate in New York and they're coming to you, they're going to be completely caught off guard because they have just the down payment that goes to the attorney.
I have a visitor. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. That's all right. We'll get her input later. But the down payment is the only amount of money. We don't do good faith deposits here in New York anymore. And the money goes to the attorney. That money is applied either to your down payment or your closing costs, either or, doesn't matter. But there's actually, it's nothing but the full risk for both the seller and the buyer for that period of time, because while the house is on the market, we could get a home inspection done, and in that period of time, you could still end up with another offer, and then the buyer loses out on their $500 on the home inspection because the seller took another offer. There's that gamble, and then there's the period of time that the seller takes their house off the market, enters into contract, enters into pending status, and if the buyer unfortunately gets denied for a mortgage, most of the time the down payment money gets returned to the buyer back with little to no compensation for the seller. And sometimes that amount of time can be a lot. So it's good to prepare people from here that, look, when you're leaving this state, guys, it's going to be a little different, because here in New York, for whatever reason, we don't tend to worry about the seller and the amount of time that they're losing on the market and the fact that they're not entertaining another buyer in that moment, and they're really just trying to sell you the house. There's not a ton of compensation for the seller in that moment. And it's nice to see, actually, that outside of the state of New York, in some different areas, depending on where you go, you're going to have to expect to show, right, a little bit of earnest money or some kind of good faith to the seller that you truly want to close on their property. And that's going to take money. So they got to be money prepared. They got to be cash prepared. They have to be flexible, right? They have to be motivated and ready to move. What about any kind of special home inspections or things like that you do for your area? Like anything that you guys test for that you would recommend, make sure a buyer looks for when they're coming out there to look for a house, that could really kind of set them back if they didn't know about it ahead of time?
Yes, absolutely. If you are getting something on acreage where you have a septic, you'll have to have a septic specialist come out. In a general inspection, if you're buying an older home, I always recommend a specialist for your AC unit and possibly even your roof, if it needs it. If it's a newer home, your general inspector will be fine. On new construction homes, the reason it's important to use a realtor not only for the contract and negotiations, but there's a lot of things that people go into these builders, these salespeople, and they have no idea. They're just like, oh, this is easy. I don't need a realtor. There's so much, like, I'm going to send your inspector out there and tell you to have an inspector come do a pre-drywall inspection. So they're going to come check all your wiring and your plumbing and everything before they even put that drywall up. And you would be surprised. There's usually a lot that still needs to be fixed before the drywall goes up.
Laura, I'm so happy that you said that, because I've sold a handful of new construction in my career as well, and you'll be shocked what these builders put into the house. Sometimes they're trying to cut corner and save $1 or $2, and they use a material that's a little inferior to the next. And I've seen new construction. I've known of a guy, he had a fire in his electrical panel like a week after closing on a brand new house. I mean, the electrical was just installed. So you cannot trust that everything is being done right. I think much like when you manufacture cars, of course, there's an assembly line, there's a way it should go. And then there's always the variable that something else completely different could happen. So it's important definitely to double check that. And I love that you said that, because too many agents would say it's a brand new house, don't worry about that. Guys, don't be cheap, spend the $500, have it looked at, let Laura recommend the right person for that. That's a really great tip, and I'm glad we touched on that. So average price point of homes we said is probably about 3 to 350. We'll get you something really decent down in Texas, new construction, right? Average taxes that you could expect to spend could be about 4 to 5,000, right? And this all could be cheaper, and it could obviously be more expensive if you really wanted something more money, right? But generally speaking, this will get you inside of a community with a handful of amenities. It sounds like things to do. You're within about an hour of a beach. Houston as a city obviously is a city. So you have that option as well. Plenty of food. You got the chili cook-off. You've got rodeos. You got a ton of things to do down in Texas. Is there anything we didn't cover that you want to tell people about?
We've got all these suburbs are, it's really great. Your city living is going to kind of, I think, be like anywhere else, but getting out in the suburbs in the country is really a place to be. School districts are big here. That's what people are always looking for. I need a good school district. I need a good school district. So I can also teach you here how to look at those ratings for yourself, because in real estate, we can't steer you in one direction or another. But there's also even such differentiation in an area. I can cross the creek and be in a completely different area that I don't want to be in. But definitely have ways of helping you distinguish those areas and still be very ethical about that. So you can do your own due diligence.
That's awesome. We use greatschools.org up here. I don't know what you use down there, but we use Great Schools. With school questions and stuff like that. We use like Walk Score, to figure out stuff as far as the community goes and things. One thing I wanted to ask, because you touched on septic, is septic, cesspools and stuff like that, is that uncommon? More houses with sewers down there than cesspools? Is that an uncommon thing?
It is. It just depends. One of the neighborhoods just right around the corner from me, that's all 1 acre lots. It's all septic. So if you get anything that's like an acre or more, you're probably going to have a septic system.
Okay. Yeah. Because here, I mean, we're mostly cesspools here on Long Island. They're struggling to try and change them over, but it's such a big undertaking to try and to switch over from the old cesspool systems to better options. What we could use are probably sewers, but we don't have enough area space to add them in right now. So
what's a cesspool for us here in Texas?
Yeah, so a cesspool it's actually, they're not allowed to put them in anymore, starting with the new construction now, but it is a double ring cement ring with just a cap on it.
Okay.
It's where the matter and the liquid goes and decomposes and drains into the earth, right? So, but because the way the houses are all built, for the most part, anywhere from as small as 1/10 of an acre to 1/4 of an acre in most developments here, they had to change the way those tanks and stuff were built, because a lot of it has to do with our drinking water as well, like where the water comes into the house and stuff. So they have really started to take a little better care of us in that way. But it is, it's an archaic way of dealing with waste, but unfortunately is one of our last options here. And a lot of people who move out from New York City out here, they're surprised by two things always. One is that we have cesspools and not sewers, and the other is that we have oil and not natural gas. So for an oil tank, it's a little more maintenance. The natural gas just comes into the house and you don't really have to worry about refilling it. Whereas an oil tank, where we just had, for the past couple of weeks, it's been like 8 degrees. So you'll go through an entire tank of oil within a month and you're not thinking about it. And you wake up in the middle of the night, like, why is the house 30 degrees? And it's because you ran out of heating oil in that moment. So, the tank heating oil is probably the lesser preferred method, but it's very popular here on Long Island. So it's a few things that I think Long Islanders don't plan on missing when they leave, is dealing with cesspools and dealing with the oil tanks, because it's a hassle.
Well, and speaking of which, gas is much cheaper here than electricity. So that's another thing that you want to look for when you're looking for energy efficiency here. Gas stoves, gas dryer, gas heater, a home that, a small example, I moved from a 1,600 square foot 3-bedroom home with electric, and we didn't really we had aluminum single paned windows. To my house now is we have a 3,400 square foot home that runs on natural gas and all energy efficiency windows, and our electric bill is not even a quarter of what it was in that 1,600 square foot home. Like,
Wow.
insane. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So, I mean, it's similar in costs for heating and stuff. The way to go here, obviously, the preferred is natural gas. Unfortunately, the natural gas company here put a moratorium not long ago, which I think is lifted now. I'm not sure, where no one could even do natural gas conversions anymore if they wanted to. So, unfortunately, a lot of people were stuck with that oil and not thrilled about it. Not that that's their number one reason for leaving New York, but it doesn't help. So when you get some people down there complaining that they don't want oil, you know why. So yeah, I mean, this is a lot of great information. I definitely love it. And if anybody is looking for any kind of more information about Texas, Houston specific, and the long list of towns that Laura mentioned that she covers, you can get in touch with her. Laura, what are your Instagram handles and stuff? How do people find you?
So on Facebook, you can look up the Ruple Team, and on Instagram, it's _Ruple_team. So those are my Instagram and Facebook handles. Best way to reach me.
Perfect. Perfect.
Phone number 832-577-2307. Emails Laura@therupleteam.com.
Awesome. I am so grateful for having you on tonight. Thank you so much for answering these questions. And
you want to share your information for us in Texas?
Oh, hey, listen, if you guys don't know already, it is Active Realtor on Instagram, on Twitter, on TikTok. It's Active Realtor pretty much everywhere. It's activerealtor@gmail.com, and it is 631-456-0427. If you've got a house here on Long Island that you want to get rid of so you can move to Texas officially, I am glad to help you out with that. Laura and I will team up. We'll make sure that your closing dates match up so that you're not homeless, living in a cardboard box for a couple of days out of the back of your U-Haul truck. We don't want to see anybody doing that. So please pick the right team when you're deciding to relocate from state to state. This is episode 3 of Moving Out. Thank you guys so much for watching. Laura, you're the best. Thank you so much. And I will talk to you all very soon.
Yep. We'll see you soon.
Guys.
Thanks, Anthony. Bye. Have a good night.
Bye. Bye, guys. Thanks for making it.